So, President Trump announces that Israel's war against Hamas is coming to an end. We have some details of the proposed agreement, including the release of all the hostages, and looks like could be into the thousands of Palestinian criminals, prisoners released. We're going to learn more, of course, in the coming hours and days. I'm sure many of you have all kinds of feelings about this. Of course, at the forefront of all our minds is deep relief for the hostages and their families. And that's what I've been feeling, and that's what's been at the forefront of my mind. I'm also having lots of questions, concerns even, about what will still be there. What's going to be of this society and terrorist regime and cult that still sits on Israel's doorstep, now with a lot more released prisoners. And so one of my feelings is this a peace, or is this really just a ceasefire? And I'll have more to say about that, I think, as the details of the plan come out. But for now, at least, what I want to talk about is the reaction that we're seeing from people around the world, particularly Israel's enemies. Because there's so much, just as on October 7th, we saw people coming out to celebrate and then protest against Israel's genocide before Israel lifted a finger. And that was like as Douglas Murray called it, a flash of lightning of clarity for those who wish to see it. So too, we are seeing that right now. What do I mean by that? Well, David Wolpe summarized it pretty well on Twitter, where he said, below you can scroll through all the demonstrations on campus praising the ceasefire that they demanded. Of course, there are no demonstrations and celebrations of the ceasefire. There is no thread there. Yep. Fascinating, isn't it? We hear ceasefire now, and then they get their ceasefire. Silence. They were out on the streets a few days ago on October 7th, the second anniversary of October 7th. What happened there? Well, have a look at this. This is Harvard graduate Abdullah Akel, previously showcased last year, calling to bomb Tel Aviv, hysterically screaming that October 7th was not enough. This is in New York City.
We did not act enough. We did not act enough. We did not act enough. Repeat after me. We did not act enough. We did not act enough. If we acted enough. If we acted enough. The headline behind me would read. The headline behind me would read. Gaza has been liberated. Gaza has been liberated. So our work is not done. We must show up. We must show up. Stronger than we did the first October 7th. Louder than we did the first October 7th. To make it clear that we are not going anywhere. We will keep fighting until Palestine is free. From the river to the sea. Within our lifetime. Make some noise.
We will not stop fighting, saying till Palestine is free. Yes, free of Jews. That's all he means. Just so we're clear. But where is there? All these people that claim to be concerned with ceasefires and peace and the genocide. I understand that they might respond with saying, yeah, but we want Palestine freed, and that's what we're after. Well, decide what your priority is right now. You're claiming there's a genocide against a people that you care about. Shouldn't you be relieved that that's stopping? That that's being halted? If that's what you say is going on? Of course, they have nothing to say. They have no relief. Because, as we all know, the whole thing is based on lies. And just as their concern for ceasefire is based on lies, so too, their talk of freeing Palestine is based on a lie. It's not about any concern with the people of Palestine, as they call it, with human rights and self-determination. It is solely about destroying the Jewish state, the re-establishment of Jewish sovereignty in their ancient homeland. That's what it's all been about. And all the things they lament, genocide, war, displacement, Nakba, all of that is self-inflicted in order to kill the Jews and destroy Israel. Everything they lament. They try and kill the Jews, then if it doesn't work, they describe their fight against the Jews and the Jews fighting back as some kind of evil, demonic thing. And they use that to push pressure on to Israel. Greta Thunberg, and we'll talk about her in a bit in another video. Silence from her. Louis Ahmed said, "Can Greta and her privileged friends sail to Yemen and Sudan, where there's been famine, hunger and wars for over 10 years instead? Jews are not involved, but still." And I also have to wonder, we see here the innocent, quote unquote, people of Gaza saying, as they hear the news of this ceasefire deal, and by the way, I'm going to call it a ceasefire deal, not a peace deal. You don't have peace when you're still, first of all, I think if your enemy thinks they've won, as we're seeing here, I don't believe that you can say from this, we have a black and white, clear peace, long-term victory, because they think they've won. And they still are a society that exists on Israel's border that celebrate Jew hatred and what Hamas did. They are saying here, congratulations to the Al-Qassam brigades, thanking Hamas for the ceasefire. Unbelievable. Watch. And then look here. Here we see something I'd say even more disturbing. Let's just get it up. On hearing the announcement of the deal, Gazans celebrate the quote-unquote peace deal with Kaiba Kaiba Ya Yahud, a genocidal call to murder Jews. There you go. They're saying it clearly and directly. Neo Berg points out, here's Gaza right now, well fed with fresh haircuts. There never was a genocide or famine at any point in the past 2 years. Times of Israel, I saw was reporting that something like 70%, 75% of the buildings destroyed in Gaza. I ask, why aren't 75% of the people destroyed if there's a genocide? Why is it that it's only about 2% that have died in this war? 50% roughly are Hamas, 2% of the population. But 75% of the buildings are destroyed? Why, if Israel's committing a genocide, would there be such disparity between the percentage of buildings killed and people? Of course, we know that the whole accusation is based on lies and nonsense, and its only intention, as is the whole Palestinian cause, is to destroy and delegitimize Israel. But, I know many people will probably be watching this and thinking, gosh, Ollie, why are you being such a downer? It's such a great moment. I think one of the problems that we've seen in Israel's history is that they have been forced into making decisions that have short-term gain or short-term peace and quiet, but mean that you're just pushing off the problem. And I am thrilled for the hostages and their families that they're being released. I also wonder, we still have people, this Palestinian issue, where you have people on either side of Israel's borders who have a whole identity construct centered on killing the Jews. And Israel yet still unable to put to bed this whole notion of a Palestinian nation state which exists solely to kill the Jews and the Jewish state. That still remains. They still think that their fight, I mean, look at them. They still think they can win this fight. And with all these prisoners being released, look what happened last time. Look what happened last time. Sinwar was released in a hostage deal. Israel withdraws from Gaza, again, for short-term reward. Thinking the world will say, oh, great, well done, you're doing this as a gesture for peace. Look what happens. My concern, my fear is, unless you finish the job, unless you make it clear that there will never be Palestinian statehood, you make it clear that they have utterly lost. Frankly, you say that Israel's going to, I say, control all of Gaza because they've forfeited their right to control it after October 7th. Unless you have all of that, I worry that this problem just festers. It's not peace, it's just a ceasefire. The same can be said of Iran. This regime, yes, was badly damaged, but Trump didn't allow Israel to finish off the regime. Not to lead to regime change, but to destroy the regime. They had the chance. They had the moment. They had all the momentum. Unfortunately, the story, I think, is very much not over yet. But look, there will be people on the other side that will say, Ollie, you have to live in the world of realism. You have to understand that there are certain things that we just can't really do and deal with. You just have to manage the status quo and manage a problem, and that's what Bibi's best at. I don't know. I wonder. I hear that, but on the other hand, I think, so Israel should be forced forever just to manage a problem, because this problem isn't going to go away. And this notion that you can just de-radicalize the Palestinians when their whole identity, for as long as you call them that, is based on Jew hate, I think is pretty deluded. I don't think it is necessarily true that doing tough, radical things means the world is going to simply not tolerate it. If you act strongly, decisively, quickly, far more radical things have been done in this world and by regimes than what Israel needs to do to really resolve this problem. Now, just interestingly, an interesting point to pick up on. Why is it that they agreed to this, that Hamas agreed to this? There's a sign that I think is quite interesting. So we're learning from the senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, Ahmed Fouad Al-Khatib. He said, what caused Hamas to agree to give up its chief bargaining chip, the Israeli hostages? That's what many people were wondering. How did this happen? For phase one of the deal, it was the unprecedented pressure against the terror group from Turkey, Qatar and Egypt. The Turks want sanction relief, the F-35 stealth fighters, new F-16s and greater cooperation with the US. The Qataris got the apology from Israel for the failed airstrike and the US commitment to Doha's national security through a new agreement and pact, and in exchange had to deliver the hostages, which means delivering Hamas. Now, by the way, the Turks getting all these fighter jets, I find concerning. The Turks have shown themselves to be, Erdogan, no friend of Israel at all, and perhaps a growing enemy of Israel. Egypt has been terrified of the spectre of forced displacement of Gazans into Sinai, and its mobilization of the Egyptian army on the country's eastern border raised tensions with Israel and threatened the peace treaty between the two countries, not to mention US foreign aid. Cumulatively, this meant that the three countries, Qatar, Turkey and Egypt, applied enormous pressure on Hamas, which is isolated, militarily weakened, its allies defeated and without options. The idea that they were a bargaining chip is what is so insane, as Daniel Feldman wrote, in a world that should have been clear from day one from every possible perspective, morally, strategically and otherwise. Holding hostages is only a liability. The world never did that. Well, what gave Hamas the idea that they should take hostages and they'll be able to bargain with them? Israel gave them that idea because Israel bargains, and it comes from the best of intention, the best of places, because we love our people and want to protect them. But negotiating with terrorists tells terrorists that terrorism pays. One of the other interesting things I think from this is that the Qataris were concerned about their national security. Why? Because Israel went into Qatar and tried to bomb the heads of Hamas. People said, oh no, that's so, it's going to lead to an escalation, it's so damaging. Look what's happened. It got the Qataris worried and pushed them to try and push Hamas to a deal. This ties into my point earlier. People think that acting boldly, defiantly, and radically is necessarily going to lead to problems. And the world, isolating Israel even more. Look what happens here. It actually brought Qatar to push Hamas towards this agreement. I think back to when the Jerusalem embassy was opened by America and Trump was under so much pressure. It was going to start a war in the Middle East and lead to escalation of tensions. What happened when he moved the embassy to Jerusalem? Nothing happened. This has to be the message that needs to ring loud and clear. When you do what is true and what is right and what is moral, the world almost helps you on your way. The world can't really do that much because we all know what the truth is deep down. Doesn't mean you won't face opposition and hurdles, but in the end, you are aligning with the inevitable trajectory for the world, which is truth, justice, goodness, godliness. So God says, be strong and of good courage. I made a video just a few days ago sending a message to the Muslim world about why this idea of killing people in order to get to paradise is not serving God, it's just serving yourself, your perverse ends. And that if you think killing Jews is the way to get to heaven, you're in for a big shock. Because God is the God of Israel, who has an eternal covenant with Israel, who assigned the land of Israel to Israel. Now, many people would say, Ollie, you saying that is so provocative, it's so dangerous, you can't say it right now. Well, I have to say that I didn't really get much blowback from it. I'm sure there are plenty of people that will just fall on deaf ears. But the idea that would be so provocative, and even people in our camps would say, you just can't say that to Muslims, we've just got to be much more reconciliatory. No. Enough is enough. Let's just speak the truth plainly. I really believe that is the call of the hour. So, I'm relieved and delighted for the hostages and their families. I'm delighted that Israel can move back to, hopefully, more normal life for now. And this should have been over a lot faster and a lot quicker if there was a much fiercer campaign that would have been done earlier. But hard for us to know what's going on behind the scenes. It's just all I can share with you is simply principles of warfare that I've learned from my understanding of Judaism and Torah. But as I've said, equally, at the same time, I think we have to refer to this as a ceasefire, not a peace deal, for all the reasons I've outlined. So I'm happy for the respite that our nation can have, but I'll continue to make the case and sound the alarm for acting boldly and with great courage and determination and alignment with what the Torah tells us, because, as it says in Proverbs, many are the thoughts of man, but the advice and the counsel of God will stand. A quick message before we finish. We have been lied to about the Palestinians from beginning till end. Have a watch of the trailer for our new documentary called The Invention of the Palestinians, How a Nation Was Invented to Destroy Another. And if you want to watch the full thing, just click on the link in the video description. The Palestinians. We have been told they are an ancient people fighting for their homeland which has been stolen from them. This narrative has fueled decades of conflict, painting Israel as an occupier of stolen land. But what if this identity is not of an ancient nation, but a modern, cynical invention? A political construct designed not to build a state, but to dismantle the Jewish one. In this JTV Plus documentary, we're going to uncover the truth behind the creation of the Palestinian identity, how it was forged in the fires of pan-Arabism, absent in historical records until strategically rebranded in the 1960s by leaders like Egyptian-born Yasser Arafat to rally global opposition against Israel. We'll trace its roots from the Ottoman era, where Palestine was a region without a distinct people, through the pre-1948 years of Arab rejectionism, before focusing on the pivotal shift of the 1960s, when Arafat declared we should now be known as Palestinians, inventing symbols like the flag to mask genocidal aims. This wasn't about self-determination, it was about exploiting refugees, suppressing true aspirations under Arab rule, and perpetuating a war to destroy Israel. Join us as we debunk the myths of an ancient Palestinian nation, expose the strategic manipulation, and reveal how this construct has hindered peace while fueling hate. Fair but firm, this is the story of an identity weaponized not for building a future, but for erasing one. To watch this JTV Plus documentary and access much more premium content, click on the link in the video description.